Hello and welcome to Irresistible You Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. My name is Karen Seltz. I am your host, and I'm really excited to talk about this topic. And that is what you do not embrace imprisons you. And we've heard this said in a lot of different ways from a lot of different people. In recovery, they say what you resist persists. And it's very similar to that. Or you've probably heard the term projection, like the things that we don't like about ourselves or that we find unacceptable, we project, we push out onto other people, whoever happens to be near us, we fling it on them. We're like, I don't want it, you can have it. You probably don't know that polka. So I want to really delve into this because it's not until we really start to embrace those parts of ourselves that we've thought were unlovable or undesirable that we can actually be free to fully embody the opposite characteristics. So I want to talk about some examples. And I got that phrase, the what you don't embrace imprisons you, from a book that I highly recommend called The Way of Mastery. And this is a channeled book. It is channeled by Yeshua ben Joseph, which is another name for Jesus. And it is a foundational book. So every lesson builds on the next one, and they give you a lot of different exercises to try on. And for me, the first time I read this book, it just felt good. It felt good in my mind, it felt good in my body. And it reminded me of the truth that's true always. And sometimes, when people read certain books, like maybe the Bible, it resonates as truth, or the Quran or the Kabbalah, whatever it is. That might not even be a book. Kabbalion is a book. So, whatever books or theories kind of resonate with you at a soul level are the ones that are true for you. So, this book resonates as truth for me. I invite you to try it on. Take a look. I just found a podcast on Audible that's breaking down The Way of Mastery that's free. So you can check it out without even buying the book if you wish to. And it's interesting because it is written from the perspective of Jesus. It does go through a lot of the events that take place that are in the Bible and from his personal account. So it's really, really fascinating. So whether you are a fan of Christianity, whether you embrace it or not, it is still a very interesting take on things. So, take what works for you. But anyways, I love a lot of the principles in there because they also coincide with teachings from Dr. Joe Dispenza and from quantum physics and all kinds of different things that kind of coalesce into this one teaching. And it's really fun to play with. So one of the things that I have talked about many, many, many times over the course of, however long I've been doing podcasts. This is so funny. I'm like, I'm going to wear an earring today. I hate earrings. They like feel awful to me and it's distracting me. So I'm taking it off. I'm not an earring person. I'm not going to apologize. One of the concepts I talk about is thinking about certain words that trigger you. Like if somebody calls you something, for me, like one of those words growing up that really triggered me was selfish, because it was my mom saying it. And if she said it, it meant to me, I don't know how she meant it, and I can't ask her because she's transcended. But one of the words was selfish. Like if she said you're selfish, I took it to mean like, what is wrong with you? You're the worst person on this earth and you're not lovable. You don't deserve to be here. Go somewhere else. And so it was a really difficult word for me to hear. And consequently, I developed the behaviors of a people pleaser. I never wanted to be selfish. Sure, you could have my last bite, and inside I'm like, I really wanted it. Or you can have the shirt off my back, like just whatever somebody wanted. If they wanted to do something that I didn't want to do, I was always a yes, because I never wanted to be selfish. There's my dog, right on cue. Hi, Lola, come on in. Lola had a birthday last week. She turned 6. Come here and say hi. Come say hi, Lola. Oh, hello, you cute little monkey. Anyway, Because I was so afraid of being selfish, I had nothing left to give anybody, let alone myself. And the last person on my list of things to give to was who? Me. So when you're afraid of being something, you kind of project it out onto other people. So I saw all kinds of people that were selfish, and they might have been people that were choosing what they wanted to do. Like, where do you want to go out to eat? And they'd be the one, oh, let's go to this place. And I'd be like, well, I don't want to go there. But I wouldn't use my voice, but I would just say, oh, they're selfish. They don't care about anybody else. They didn't even ask me my opinion, things like that. And I was getting resentful, which is no way to go through life. Hey, Lola, please lie down, lie down, go lie down. It's not the time to play with your loud toys. Love her. I'll play with you later. Go lie down. I promise. Gotta love the live. So if you look at every characteristic with two separate sides, like a coin. So for me, there was selfishness on one side and generosity on the other. Because I was so afraid of being selfish, I gave everything. So I had nothing left to give, number one, to myself, but also to places or people or causes or activities that I really would choose to. So I couldn't be generous. Does that make sense? So if you're giving, there's nothing left to give. So those characteristics or those labels that we fight against and we're like, oh, I'll never be like that. Like, just watch it because it's got you. It's got you, and you can never fully embody its opposite, whatever that characteristic is for you. You can never fully embody the opposite if you are so afraid and resisting the other thing. So, back to the way of mastery, what you fail to embrace imprisons you. So, you are constantly on the hook. Whereas if I said, you know what, you're a purple frog, you'd be like, what? Or like like you're an accountant, you'd be like, no, I'm not, unless you are, right? But it wouldn't trigger you, wouldn't say, how dare you call me an accountant? And like, who cares, right? You'd be like, nothing. There's neutrality in your body because you're like, of course I'm not, duh. And you wouldn't fight against it. You'd be like, whatever, what are you smoking? So think about that. If somebody calls you selfish or a bitch or um, fat or skinny or whatever your trigger words are, just notice that if some part of you didn't believe that and didn't fear that being a truth for you, you would have nothing. Like, you would have no feelings in your body on it. It would be completely neutral. So you can always check, like, what word, if somebody called you, that would trigger you, and just notice. Maybe it's slow, like you're not the sharpest tool in the shed, and just notice those things because those have a hold on you. And then what you can do is ask yourself, like, has there ever been a time when I've been selfish? Yes, of course. Would it be okay? Is it still lovable? And if you can't get there with yourself, think about somebody that you love. Would it be okay? Would I still love my best friend the same amount if she were selfish? Like, one time, would I still love her the same? Of course. What if she was a cheater? Yes, I wouldn't maybe like it, but I would love her. Yes. So it's that. And then also, what's fun, if you want to go a little bit beyond that, is take a look at your projections of other people and just like keep a little journal. Like, if somebody really gets your goat and you're like, oh, how dare they? Somebody cut you off in traffic. What are your judgments of that person? So for me, a lot of times I used to think they're inconsiderate, like they're selfish because they didn't care if they endangered my life. And I would be very extreme with it. And now I'm like, go for it. I'm still alive. Yes, it scared me a little. Maybe I needed to be scared because maybe I was in like a coma, like the road coma, and it got me to be more alert. And I'm fine. Like, it didn't hurt me. Nobody in my car died. Nobody went through the windshield. So sometimes it's actually a gift. People will wake you up to, if you're asleep. So just look for those things too. And one thing that also supports me is really looking at things, especially if they're disappointing. So if something, makes me sad, like if I feel sad about something or it feels like a loss, when I can sit in it and say, yes, I'm feeling sad right now. And I know this is an opportunity. I trust that every single thing that happens in my life is happening for me, for my growth and development, and for the good of all. So, how is this for me? Help me see it, God, because if I can't see it, I'm not going to see it unless I ask for help. So, I'm very quick to do that now because I don't mind sitting in discomfort, but if it gets to be days and days and I'm like, okay, this is not my preferred emotional state. I don't feel like I can best serve myself or others, my family, the people I'm here to serve if I'm sitting, in a non-preferred emotion. So you get to determine what those are for you. And I'm not saying resist them at all. I'm saying sit in them and then ask for guidance. Like, what is this for? What did this situation happen for? How is it for me? Because another thing it says in both the Course in Miracles and in the Way of Mastery is all events are neutral. So if you if you don't believe that, go to a place where there's a lot of people and then something happens, right? Like fireworks, for example. And you ask every single person there, like, okay, what was your experience? What happened? They might all say, yeah, there were fireworks, but what about if there was a fight? How would 20 different people describe that? What happened? Probably everybody would have a different version. And most people would not think that is a neutral event. And I challenge you to look for it as a neutral event. Look like, how is this neutral? How is this neutral? And if you look at all the different people's accounts of it, you can come to a place where it's certainly not an objective truth. Everybody has a different version of that truth that is 100% valid for them. Like all truths are true. I went way off on a tangent, kind of fun. So, when something happens in your life, what do you do with that? Like, how do you look at it? Are you ever thinking, oh, I'm a victim, something happened to me? If that happens, know that that's a normal response. Like, don't beat yourself up. And if you sit in that place and you keep that story for very long, it is extremely disempowering because it makes you a victim. And in reality, you are a creator. So if you don't like what you're experiencing, A Course in Miracles and The Way of Mastery says, choose again. And if you just sit and look at it like, I am a creator. I created this. And it's not from a place of self beat up. Not ever is it self beat up. But if you assume that place and that role as a co creator with God or with the divine, then if you don't enjoy the situation you are in, you can make a different choice. You could say, okay, I created this. What is this for? What is it here to teach me? What am I here to learn? And then you can say, okay, do I wish to continue this or would I like something else? Okay, tomorrow I think I'd like to experience um, opportunities and bliss and passion and lovely surprises. And then you just create that. Your vibration goes to that which you expect. And it's very interesting if you look at how events unfold. There are lots of different theories on this. And one that I've heard that I really like, I think it was Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he says, you can create on autopilot. You can allow your subconscious mind to run its programs, and then you'll create on autopilot. And if you happen to get into an accident that day, that's because you left it to chance. You didn't consciously create your day, the day in which you were going to be safe, the day in which you were going to get this amazing opportunity to advance your career, the day in which you met the love of your life. like you were holding a different vibration. And so different events happened in your life. So failure to be intentional to what you're creating can lead to randomness, like you get what you get. Now, that doesn't mean that you created an accident. It means you failed to not create it. Does that make sense? So every time you go out, set the intention. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to get there safely with ease and grace. And I'm going to spread love to everybody on the way. And it is absolutely incredible when you set that intention to be love and for everybody else to feel it. Just watch what happens when you walk into a room. It is unbelievable. So play with that one thing like, okay, today I'm going to be love. I'm going to spread love to everybody. And then just be it, be that vibration of pure unconditional love and just watch what happens. It is so crazy. It is so crazy. Like I've done this so many times. I haven't done it recently. I do it sometimes when I go to yoga and we're in savasana. I'm like, okay, I'm just like, then I'm like, I can concentrate and I'm like, okay, here's love. And just like, I see these waves of love like emanating from my body, from my heart, and going to everybody in the room. And I feel like it makes a huge difference in the whole energy of the room. It all just like, woo. But do this sometimes, go to a public place like Starbucks or something and just watch what happens. I've done it and all of a sudden I'll be working and all of a sudden people are coming up to me having conversations. I'm like, and I didn't think I looked approachable because I was concentrating on something, but there's something to that energy. People can feel it. And there's an invitation to interact. So it's really fun. So I invite you to play with it and just see what happens. I love that so much. All right. So talking about what you fail to embrace imprisons you. I invite you to think about that. Where do you feel like you're stuck in your life or like you're a prisoner or like you can't see any other options than what is happening right now? And I invite you to go deeper and dig into it and find out like, okay, what is it that I'm resisting that's keeping me stuck here? What am I failing to embrace? And usually, I believe it would be like some kind of a characteristic that you're resisting in yourself. And I would invite you to go back to childhood and think about your parents, your siblings, your teachers, anybody who really had an influence on you. If they were to call you any particular word, which ones would hurt the most? And then that is where the gold is. That is your key to freedom. And the biggest thing that I believe it would support you with is freedom from self judgment, because self judgment is the only judgment that really matters. Like I said, if I called you an accountant and you're not one, you'd be like, whatever, because it doesn't agree with your self assessment, which is the same as self judgment, right? Now, if I say to you, you're a female or you're a male or you have blonde hair, you have brown hair, like you'd be like, okay. And if those are true about you, you'd be like, yes, so, right. Even if they're true, there's not really much of a charge on that generally. Oh my gosh, how'd you know? How'd you know I had blonde hair? Like, no, you're gonna be like, yeah, duh, duh. And if you have brown hair and I say you're blonde, you'd be like, okay, you're blind. Like, I don't think you're gonna argue. I think you're gonna be like, whatever, because it's a neutral thing. But if you're talking about characteristics that you spent a lifetime judging or rejecting, especially about yourself, then you can have some fun, some play. And I invite you to look at those characteristics and maybe even look up the definition in the dictionary, because it'll be interesting to see what the more neutral definition is. And like one of them that's kind of fun to play with is like for females, like if somebody calls you a bitch, what comes up in you? Because there's a lot of judgment. That word is very charged for a lot of women. And one thing you can do to kind of neutralize that charge a little bit is find 5 situations maybe where being a bitch would be an asset. And one example would be like if somebody's doing work at your house and it's not right. And you're like, trying to be nice about it, but nothing's getting done, then would it be an asset to perhaps be a bitch? And it's fascinating if you look at, like, sometimes men can do the same thing. They can say the same exact phrase as a woman, and they're called assertive. But a woman says it exactly the same tone, and she's a bitch. So just look at it like that. Like, what are the gifts of that word? And what are some substitute words? Like a bitch and assertive, if you look up the definitions, they could be very, very similar or powerful or yeah, I like powerful, empowered. It's the same, right? So if you look at it like that, is there really anything to resist? I don't know. I think they're all neutral, but they all produce different emotional states in us that can have a high frequency or a low frequency. And again, you get to choose because you are the creator of your life. So if you don't like what you're experiencing, play with this stuff. Just play. Playfulness is such a beautiful quality and it comes from spirit. Our spirits are playful. And the ego, the spiritual ego, is what is serious and the one that wants us to be stuck and to be right and to resist all these things, to be afraid of somebody calling us certain names or certain characteristics. So I say, yes, you're right. If somebody wants to call me selfish, this is what I'm practicing with now. Yes, you're right. Thank you. What else do you have to say? Like, so what? If you say that to somebody, what are they going to say? They're going to be like, oh, that's no fun. And they're going to move on. Right. So invite yourself to play with the voice in your head, like the ego voice. It's like, oh my gosh, if you say that, everybody's going to judge you. Everyone's going to think you're full of yourself. Everyone's going to think this. Everyone's going to think that. Say, so what? Let them think it. Because whatever people say about you is what? A projection of the stuff that they don't want in themselves. So, in that way, you're playing a role for them. When you're willing to stand up and be courageous and show up authentically, you're playing a role for the people who've been hiding who they really are and resisting all those characteristics that they thought were not lovable. And you're helping them to come up to the surface so they can heal them. So, look at it that way. How fun is that? Thank you so much for watching Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I will see you right here next week. Bye.